welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is our fabulous producer in Memphis, Tennessee, Wayne Ridenauer. We have our two co-hosts with us, Todd Corder up in Woodstock, Georgia, and of course we have the voice of the Rome Emperors, Larry Gardner, with us. You can find us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Guys, you can find us personally at JJ Get You One for myself, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, and at LG for Real Though for Larry Gardner. Larry, how you doing tonight, man?
Enjoying life, fellas. Everything is well up here in Northwest Georgia. Glad to be back on here, and feel like it's been forever and ages. But glad to be back on with a full house tonight, and glad to hear some of Dave's commentary tonight. But I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Wayne, how you doing, man?
Well, right now I'm kind of focused, mostly on the show. But Memphis is playing VCU right now, and they're down by 4 at halftime. So I may get slightly distracted by that, but I'll try to stay focused.
So if we see you side-eyeing it, we know what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Todd, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. It's been a while since I've been on this format due to work and everything else, and appreciate you asking me. But I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to start off with nothing to do with sports here. I can't believe the complete insanity by these people running our so-called elite institutions. The president of Harvard, MIT, and Penn. I can't believe they think it's okay to call for the genocide of Jews. This is absolute insanity. I know we don't do politics here, but this is insanity. And you know what? If I go to school in any of these institutions, I'm dropping out and finding a different place. Bottom line.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's crazy what's going on in the world today. Thoughts and prayers with everybody that's in duress around the world. There's lots of it. I'm doing great. Not as well as Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans, though, as he's the first player in NFL history 10 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving season. Hats off to a wonderful player. Enjoyed watching him. Super Bowl champion with Tom Brady. So hats off to Mike Evans. What's on tap for today's show? Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, will join us. We're going to do a little quick bowl preview. We'll get into a little NFL quick hits action and the ever-exciting pick six as it's getting to the nitty-gritty of the season. And everybody's pulling within a couple games of each other. So without further ado, let's kick this thing off with our guest. And we welcome Georgia State voice Dave Cohen. Georgia State football is going bowling. They're 6-6. Why not talk about it with the friend of the show and voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen. Dave, it's good to have you on. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, guys. Good to be back on. And, looking forward to getting out to lovely Boise, Idaho with Georgia State football a little later on this month for the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It's not the bowl that I thought Georgia State would end up in, but after the Panthers lost their final 5 games, after starting out 6-1, losing a tough game at the end of the season, really a game we should have won in Norfolk, Virginia at Old Dominion, 25-24, kind of limped into the end of the season. And I'm sure the bowl selection committee, as well as the Sun Belt, and Sun Belt had 12 of the 14 schools bowl eligible and going bowling. So they always try to keep you as regional as possible.
Yeah.
But in this case, with 12 of the 14, I guess we drew, if lack of a better term, from a travel standpoint, the short straw. And so we've got to go to Boise, Idaho. I've been there a couple of 3 times before over the years with Georgia State basketball. Last time I was out there actually with Georgia State basketball, it was 2001. The legendary Lefty Drizel was Georgia State's coach. And we were in the NCAA tournament out there at the arena at Boise State, pulled off that first round upset of Wisconsin, lost to Maryland in the second round of the second game, and ended up coming back to Atlanta. But Boise has been good to Georgia State, at least basketball-wise. We'll see about football when we get out there.
And we'll
Yeah.
hold the Georgia State Panthers thought just for a second. Got to get your reaction to Sunday afternoon's college football playoff final rankings, leaving an undefeated Power 5 Florida State out. A historic decision by the College Football Playoff Committee. Your thoughts on leaving Florida State out? Should they have been in, or do you agree with the decision?
Well, it is a super, super tough decision for that committee. But I will start out by saying this. And listen, we've talked about this over the last couple of years when I've been on this podcast show with you guys. I've always said, and you can back me up on this, that it should go to 12 teams. Now, when I said that, there were still 10 Division I conferences, 5 Power 5, 5 Group of 5. Of course, Georgia State's in the Sun Belt. We're in the Group of 5. But I felt, much like the NCAA basketball tournament, which we all agree is the greatest college event of the year and really brings in, I think, the most money for the NCAA on a calendar year, that each conference champion should represent that conference in one of the 10 automatic bids to the college football playoff. You would then have 2 wild card spots. Now, they're going to go to 12, but it's not going to go in the manner of which I'm speaking, because you know as well as I do, they're not going to give the Group of 5 spots.
No.
Sun Belt, Conference USA, Mountain West,
American
Athletic, and the MAC. They ain't getting a spot. They're not getting a bid per conference, although that's what should happen. You would then have the argument, well, but we're not getting the best teams in every year. I'm like, well, that's not always necessarily the end result. We don't get every year the best college basketball teams in. I'm sure that there are teams better than the Atlantic Sun Conference Tournament champion every year. There are teams better than the Conference USA Tournament champion every year. There are Power 5 schools in the middle of the pack that are not as good or that are better than the Sun Belt Conference Tournament champion every year who wins the tournament. But that's what it's about. It's about at the beginning of the season, every single school, all 350, however many Division I college basketball programs there are, every last one of them has a shot, no matter how big or how small, at making that NCAA tournament. Most of the time, it comes down to them having to win their conference tournament. That's how I envisioned it for college football. You know, so much has been made about going to 12. FCS has been playing a 24-team playoff now for a number of years. If FCS can do it, pull it off, and crown a true national champion at the FCS college football level, why is there so much discussion among the FBS, and why can't FBS replicate what FCS is doing and crown a true national champion and avoid situations like we just had this past week with Florida State? There's no question Florida State should be in. You have all the crazy scenarios. If Jalen Milroe doesn't complete that pass for the touchdown and Auburn holds on to beat Alabama, Alabama's not in it. That's a 2-loss team. That means more than likely Georgia has gotten in and or Florida State has gotten in. But I will say this as we continue this discussion. You guys know this as well as I do, the current landscape of college football and really college athletics. But just speaking in terms of college football, FBS college football is run and controlled by the Southeastern Conference and by its TV partner, ESPN. They are making the decisions. They are driving the bus. There's no way that they were going to announce 4 teams last Sunday and one of them not be a Southeastern Conference team.
Right.
It just was not going to happen. And unfortunately, Florida State was basically thrown overboard in order to get an SEC team into the Final Four. And that's what happened.
100% agree with you. I don't believe the SEC should have gotten in with the way it played out. I definitely think it should have been the 3 undefeateds in Texas, because that's the way it played out on the field. I don't think a group of 13 men and women in a boardroom in Grapevine, Texas, determines winners and losers. And that's what I really hated for Florida State and those young student athletes. And now it's getting really ugly. There's a press conference canceled for the Orange Bowl today. There's lots of speculation and rumors that a lot of Florida State players are going to transfer, get out of Dodge per se, maybe not even play in that bowl game. It's going to be really interesting moving forward. TC, I think you wanted to ask a question about the Panthers Idaho Potato Bowl. Go ahead.
Well, here's the situation. Let me comment on that, because we had TJ Pittenger on today, who has a Florida State podcast called Double Fries and No Slaw. We had it earlier. You can go check it out on ATL Prime Sports on Twitter or any of our accounts, because it's been retweeted. But Dave, to me, that would be nonsense. Florida State does not need to take its football and go home. They need to take the fate that was dealt to them, which was unfair, go play Georgia, play this football game, win the football game, and tell the playoff committee, see, you got it wrong. The fact that just because somebody had a third-string quarterback on the field or a second-string quarterback on the field, you're going to exclude them from a 13-0 season and take their body of work and take it away. I'm sorry. I mean, we shouldn't have played the Monday Night Football game between the Jags and the Bengals with no Joe Burrow. Jake Browning went in there and played fantastic. Had ever started an NFL game or won an NFL game. He's been in the league since 2019 for Washington. The game is won on the damn field, and it's about time these people, 13 people in the boardroom, realize it and play it. Dave, tell me your thoughts on that, because I think Florida State should play the game. I'm from that generation of quitting is, from a competition standpoint, is absolutely unequivocally unacceptable.
Well, there's no question they should play the game. It's not Florida State's fault. It also takes away from the fantastic play of their defense all season and down the stretch. Even with the quarterback situation and the injury, okay, so your offense obviously looks and functions a little differently, but how about your defense? The defense rose to the occasion, and they're the ones that drove the bus into down the stretch in the regular season and in the ACC championship game against Louisville. So, yeah, I don't really buy into that. Well, they have an injured quarterback. They just don't look the same. Well, you're taking away all the credit or any credit that their defense would take in helping Florida State to the finish that they, put up on the board. I mean, the defense is what made the difference down the stretch. Does that not count for anything? Or all we're looking at is who's taking the snap at quarterback? I think Florida State should play. It's a great opportunity. They're going to play the Georgia Bulldogs. If they go out and beat Georgia, well, that's just an exclamation point on the decision that was made. And rather than end it on a sour note, as it's been since the announcement was made, hypothetical, and I have no dog in the fight, so it's not a big deal to me either way. Just you hope for a good competitive football game. But Florida State, with everything that's happened, has a fantastic opportunity to end the season on a positive note if they can go out and play well and get a win.
Dave, you got the Panthers are on the way to the Idaho Potato Bowl now. And I know you mentioned about limping, stumbling into the bowl season with the Panthers, but share your thoughts about the 2023 campaign with the Panthers and what do you see taking place or transpiring in the bowl game for the Panthers?
Well, right now it's tough to say. You got 2 6-6 teams. We ended up 3-5 in the Sun Belt. Again, we lost our final 5 games, and I'll touch on that in a minute. Utah State, this will be the first time we've played them. Interestingly enough, their former athletic directors, former athletics administrator at Georgia State, and Blake Anderson, the head coach at Utah State, has Sunbelt ties back to Arkansas State. So there's a little bit of that familiarity from my standpoint. I don't know Blake Anderson, but I certainly know the former athletic director who's now at Louisiana Monroe back in the Sun Belt. But they finished 6-6, and they finished 4-4 in the Mountain West. So, for Georgia State, the conditions will play into this a little bit. This is going to be a cold weather game in Boise in late December. So we'll see how we're able to respond. I'll be honest with you. What worries me about this game is what you're seeing on X or Twitter about all these kids that are leaving their current programs and going into the transfer portal. By my count, and I am keeping a running list right here on my, my football sheets. Right now, according to my list, there were 10 Georgia State players that had declared for the transfer portal, including our starting running back, Marcus Carroll.
Yeah.
Including what ended up being our backup running back, KZ Adams, including our number one receiver for the second year in a row, Robert Lewis. We lost Jamari Thrash, who has had a fantastic season for Louisville. I got to watch him against Florida State on Saturday night on a flight back from New York. And, he didn't have a great game, but he's still Louisville's, I believe, top receiver. We're losing our starting right tackle, Montavious Cunningham. A backup lineman, Cameron Dye, a few other players that were not starters, but that had garnered playing time. My question is, who's going to run the football for Georgia State when we get out to Boise? Darren Granger will be able to run the football, but we don't really have a running back. Freddie Brock, who transferred from Maine, by my count, only had 3 carries during the regular season. So we're going out there, and we've lost a lot in a little, as far as numbers, transfer portal wise, that I would feel a whole lot better if those guys were going to be with us heading out to Boise. Real quick, we started out 6-1. We beat Rhode Island. We beat UConn. We won on the road at Charlotte and Coastal Carolina. Really, you could tell the difference was we lost to the eventual Sun Belt champion Troy Trojans 28-7. That was our first loss of the season. And after beating Louisiana, we did not play well in the second half at Louisiana, but got out of there with a 20-17 win. And we lost every game down the stretch. Tough outings at Georgia Southern, 2 tough outings at home against James Madison, who was fantastic this year, as well as Appalachian State, who finished winning their last 5 games until they lost the championship game to Troy. And then we led at Old Dominion for 59 minutes and 58 seconds. Led 21-0 at halftime. We ended up losing that game. Old Dominion did everything right. Georgia State did not do everything right down the stretch, and we lost. They scored with 2 seconds on a quarterback keeper and won the football game 25-24. I would so love to be going out to Boise at 7-5, which is what, in my opinion, we should be, instead of 6-6. But to wrap it up, we lost to the better teams, the upper echelon teams in the Sun Belt, and we beat the teams in the Sun Belt that were middle of the pack or below us. We beat who we were supposed to beat, but we did not look good against the better teams in the Sun Belt, and that was the difference down the stretch. It was a tough second half stretch. Other than Old Dominion, that's a game we should have won.
You're listening to Dave Cohen right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can find Dave on X at GA State Voice.
All right. Well, I'm going to switch over to basketball real quick. Dave, y'all are going to be making the bus trip down to Macon coming up, playing the Mercer Bears. Have you got any highlights, expectations for that game?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I watched them in their last outing. They lost to another Sun Belt school in a big wide margin score. It was 80-something to 62 in Macon. They lost to South Alabama. So Mercer is struggling right now. They're 2-6. Georgia State is 4-4. They snapped a 2-game losing skid. They had losses on the road at Charlotte and Kennesaw State. And they beat Middle Georgia State, an NAIA program, on Monday night in Atlanta. So right now the Panthers are 4-4. Mercer hopefully goes in the win column if they play like they played against Middle Georgia State. Like I said, Mercer is struggling. Then we got a tough one. from a travel standpoint, got to go out to Provo, Utah, and play the top 20 ranked BYU Cougars. So how about this for travel? Leave with basketball on the 15th, play at BYU on the 16th, come back to Atlanta on the 17th, in Atlanta on the 18th, on the 19th, get back on the airplane and head out to Boise, because by bowl stipulations, the football team has to be there on the Tuesday of game week. So we're going to spend, 4 or 5 days in Boise after getting back from Utah. There's also a Toccoa Falls basketball game in there as well. That should go in the win column as well. And that should pretty much take Georgia State right up to Arkansas State, I think on December 30th to open Sun Belt Conference play. So if they win the games they should win, unless there's an upset at BYU, I think they'd end up being 6-5 heading into conference play.
Yeah,
I think it is, unless I'm missing a game. Georgia State is much improved, but I still think that, quote unquote, still figuring a few things out with regards to personnel, as you've got 8 new faces on the roster.
right.
I think by the time we play Arkansas State, things should be pretty much settled. Maybe they will after Mercer as well. I don't know. But it's Georgia State basketball is definitely better than they were last year. Just like football, it remains to be seen as we get to see the rest of these Sun Belt teams. And with this transfer portal, everybody looks different every year, more so than in past because of all the transfers that are coming in and out of these programs. So the question is Georgia State a middle-of-the-pack Sun Belt team? Does it have the capability to run with the upper echelon, whoever that is in the Sun Belt this year? We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, Memphis got a whole new team except for players from last year. So it's just going to be that way from here out unless they change something about the transfer portal.
Well, the horse has left the barn. I don't know. I'm not saying that it cannot be done, but it's a whole lot harder to go back and change things that are already working. I mean, in other words, when I say working, they're already underway. The machine is working. It's going to be tougher to go back and instill those regulations and stipulations because there's going to be pushback from a few different angles, because the way it is right now, I'm guessing that obviously the players like it because they've got almost total freedom. It's basically collegiate free agency. I'm sure there are some coaches that like it, and I'm sure there are some coaches that don't, but it is what it is right now. And there's all sorts of talk about legislation and getting Washington involved and trying to, again, corral what's going on, but nothing is set in stone as of yet. And so right now, coaches have got to deal with basically collegiate free agency.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing process. It's always moving. There's always moving parts in the transfer portal. I think I saw an ESPN notification today that there's 3,000 football players in the transfer portal right now. It's just absolutely nuts for basketball as well. But Dave, thanks for coming on. We're running out of time. Tell our listeners how they can catch the Mercer Bears and the Georgia State Panthers basketball game on Saturday night.
Well, just like with football, we have 2 stations carrying basketball. Saturday afternoon, it'll be 1:45 airtime, 2:00 tip from Mercer University down in Macon, the arena they've got down there, which is very nice, by the way. We'll be on our Gainesville affiliate, 97.5 FM WGTJ. We'll also be on the GSU Athletics mobile app. And you can also follow us and listen to us via the TuneIn Radio app. Just search WGTJ. Again, airtime 1:45. And then we'll come to you from Provo, Utah. And that'll get us close to the start of Sun Belt Conference basketball towards the end of the month. And then, like we talked about, a bowl game as well against Utah State in Boise.
Well, Dave, as always, thanks for coming on. Go Panthers. We'll be checking out the call Saturday afternoon. And safe travels as you travel across the country these next couple weeks.
Not once, but twice. But I appreciate it. Always good to be on with you guys. Lots to talk about. And I guess that's what makes these kind of shows so much fun.
Absolutely. We enjoy having you. And again, go Panthers. We'll talk to you soon, Dave.
All right, you guys take it easy.
All right.
Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. Listeners, you can find him on X at GA State Voice. That's GA State Voice. Fellas, what a great interview with Dave. As always, great stuff. Very interesting comments about Florida State. Georgia State Panthers going bowling in Idaho. And, of course, the men's basketball team is off to a 4-4 start. 2 losses early in the season at Belmont and versus Northern Illinois. Difference in the season right there. All right, guys, let's go from Dave. Let's transfer over to college football. Let's maybe get our opinions real quick right here, guys, on this Florida State controversy. Then we'll go into the who wins the college football playoff. So, Todd, you've been wanting to say a couple things, or Larry, we haven't had your voice on in a while. So, you and Todd start this thing off. Your thoughts on Florida State getting left off real quick, and then who do you think wins the college football playoff? We'll start with Larry.
My thoughts are simple and easy. As a journalist, I went to do my research into the rules and the parameters that the college football playoff selection committee established when they did this way back in 2016. And one of the parameters that I was shocked and just mouth left wide open to find out is one of the rules that they had in place was that if an injury happens to a player on a team, they have the right to declare that they can overlook said team in the best interest of the whole college football playoff. And when I saw that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. My second point would have been, let's have a little common sense. We're going to call for the first time ever an emergency 16 playoff. Michigan and Washington gets a bye. Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, and Ohio State, y'all play the first 2. With those winners playing Michigan and Washington and finish it out right there, this will be the first time as we go into it as an emergency situation ball game. But I was, as a Miami fan, I would say a whole bunch of things about Florida State people, but in this situation, it's bigger than my fandom for Miami, and it's simply, I hate it for the Florida State kids because what you've done is everything that you've ever preached about any type of athletics. Is if you keep winning, everything will work itself out. Well, you have been lied to since August 1st of 2023 because you did everything that you were asked to do and you had something snatched away from you. Even if it is in the rule book, it's unfortunate that it happened. TC, what you got?
I'll tell you what, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Just because somebody got hurt, we can go ahead and prevent you from playing in a championship game. My goodness, don't these people, 13 people in the boardroom, don't know the game is played on the field? It isn't Stratomatic baseball or football. It isn't Madden. It isn't anything. It's one on the field. I just can't believe that we're in 2020 and all these years later, Division I college football doesn't get it. D2, D3, NIH, junior college, any high school football, any sport at any level has a championship won on the field, but Division I college football, there's the goofiest thing I ever heard was to get the best 4 teams in there. Well, how in God's world do you know that until you play it all on the field? And guess what? Think about this. It was determined 3 teams are undefeated. Georgia had their chance, they lost. Alabama lost to Texas, Bama beat Georgia. End of story. Under this 4-team format, there was no other choice. But again, heaven didn't move earth on Sunday, so the SEC got its bid. Nothing against the SEC. Nothing against Alabama. But you know what? They didn't deserve it. I mentioned it. Monday Night Football, an example. Brownie. We just might as well not play the game. Burrow's can't play. Bengals lose, go home, give Jacksonville a win, and chalk it up. Because that's what the playoff committee is telling you. They're telling you we shouldn't play the game because the starting quarterback's not there. most
Well
ridiculous
said, you
thing
two.
I've ever
Well said,
heard,
guys.
Jay say.
Yeah,
I can't fathom how stupid it is.
Yeah, well said, guys. I agree with you both again, and to me, it was cut and dry. You put the 3 undefeateds with Texas in there. That's what I said on Twitter. I think I said that last week on this here show. And I tell you what, the thing that got me the most was you look at the head-to-head, and Texas beat Alabama by 10 in Tuscaloosa. Then you go like this, and you go, well, let's look at some common opponents on there. Alabama and Florida State had a common opponent, folks. It was LSU. Florida State went on a neutral site and beat LSU by 21 points in week 1. Well, let's flash forward later in the season. Bama beats LSU at home in the comforts of Tuscaloosa by 14 points. So that same team, common opponent, that should have been a tiebreaker as well. It wasn't used. It's an atrocity for Florida State. It's an atrocity for college football, and it's definitely an eyesore moving forward. Thank goodness we have a 12-team playoff. All right, guys, with all the controversy said, Wayne, you have a quick comment on FSU?
No, not on FSU. Just it's weird that the bowl selection committee decided to give Memphis an extra home game because we're going to be playing in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, not just in the same city or the same state that we're from, but the same field we always play on. So it's kind of weird.
Hopefully it's a home field advantage for you in a bowl game. You get the 10th win of that season. Guys, with everything that's gone down, who do you think wins the college football playoff? Let's do an early pick 'em real quick. Guys, I'll stick with the 4th seed having success in this tournament. They've done it every year, it seems like. Very first year, 4th seed Ohio State. Oh, wait, guys, with the 3rd-string quarterback. They won the national championship. How ironic I used that point right there. And then you go to last year, TCU as a 4th seed, beats Michigan, gets to the national championship game, and we all know what happens. I'm sticking with Bama. Guys, Bama is a very efficient football team right now. One of the tops in the country in terms of defense and scoring. They're well in the top half of college football there. And again, Nick Saban's done a great job coaching this team up. Milroe's a top 10 quarterback in terms of quarterback rating at 83.6, which is 9th in college football. And again, Alabama's top 20 in both scoring and defense. I think that's going to hold true. It's going to be a real tough matchup for Michigan in that Sugar Bowl. I can't wait to see what happens going on the field. But my early pick right now is Bama to win it all. Todd, what say you?
Games in the Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama, number 1, number 2.
Excuse me. Thank you. Got them flip-flopped there.
Okay. So I'm picking Michigan. I mean, they have just their defense is outstanding. You saw it against an Iowa team that isn't very good offensively, but they're going to come after Milroe, and they're going to blitz him, and they're going to get to him, and he can't throw the intermediate pass where the diddly poo. His receivers bailed him out against Georgia, and one critical catch that was not a catch in the game should have been called incomplete. Michigan, to me, can run the football. Their offensive line, they are a little bit banged up, but they can run it as good as anybody in the country. Jim Harbaugh will carry the trophy, and the NCAA will have to give it to him, just like the Big Ten did, and it'll be an awkward situation. But I see Michigan winning it all. Their line play is as good as anybody in the country. They don't turn the ball over. McCarthy will be healthy for the game. He can throw it downfield. He can run it. Mobile quarterbacks give Alabama problems, and this is one mobile quarterback that'll do it. Michigan's an experienced team. They've lost the last 2 seasons in the semifinal. This is the season they get over the hump and win it. Bama's, the SEC normally is the best conference in college football, not this year. I thought it was the Pac-12. And, it surprised me that Georgia lost to Alabama. I thought it'd be a really close game, but Georgia didn't get it done. Michigan will.
Larry, your thoughts on the winner of the college football playoff?
As much as it pains me to say this, I'm going with the hook 'em horns, baby. I think it's Texas is to lose. And I hear what TC is saying about Michigan. I hear what you say about Bama. But if you can beat them once, you can dang sure beat them again. The one element that you cannot teach, and it will always be the number one asset that any team has, is team speed. And Texas has the track stars. Not only do they have the track stars, Steve Sarkisian has got the guys playing like somebody took a Longhorn and got ready to brand them right on the cheek. You know, those guys are really doing. I mean, I could give you all kinds of stats and whatnot, but the eye test matters. And kind of like what TC said about Michigan, they just continue to play. They continue to play. You know, I think the one thing that Michigan is going to have a hard time dealing with when it comes to Bama is they really didn't play anybody in their championship game. Iowa was somebody they could just blow over, where Alabama played a battle-tested Georgia team. Texas is going to play a Washington team that has every bit of the ability on defense to neutralize Michael Penix. And they've got the speed on offense that Washington's defense just can't keep up with. And to me, if they get that win, I like their chances against Michigan or Bama. If they already beat Bama and Bama, they can do it again. And I just don't think Michigan has the team speed to be able to keep up with Texas. So my winner, the Burnt Orange from Austin, Texas.
I like it. Now, Wayne, that leaves you. You picked the Washington Huskies at the beginning of the season to be in here. And, folks, this may be of ATL Prime Sports first. We all have a different winner in the College Football Playoff National Championship. Wayne, tell us why you're picking Washington.
Michael Penix. I had my mic cut off. Anyway, I'm picking Michael Penix in Washington because not just the quarterback play, but there's something magical about that team. Every time you watch them play, something happens on there that you can't believe happened, whether it's a receiver grabbing something off of somebody's shoulder or, you know, a runner that you'd think was down and he keeps going another 7 yards. So I really like Washington in this one.
I like it. All right, guys, a quick bowl preview. Give me a bowl that's not the college football playoffs or your favorite schools that you're excited about moving forward. Guys, I'll start off with Wayne. Let's go ahead and hear your favorite bowl outside of Memphis, Wayne. Give us just one.
I'm going to go with that Ohio State and Missouri game. That to me is going to be probably one of the most exciting games to be played because those two schools have seen each other, but they haven't played each other. So we're going to find out what happens.
That's a great one. I'll go second here. I'm going to go with the Gasparilla Bowl at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, Florida, hosting our Raymond James Stadium hosting the Gasparilla Bowl. Excuse me. It's Georgia Tech and Central Florida. I think two teams very hungry to succeed in their bowl game. For Central Florida, you had their first game in postseason history as a Power 5 team. And then Georgia Tech, their first bowl game in 5 years. With Brent Key, offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, Hayes King, they're looking for their 7th win, which would be their most, again, in about 5 or 6 years there. So that's my favorite and most intriguing bowl game. That's not one of your main ordeals, and that is the Friday before Christmas, Friday, December 22nd. Again, Raymond James Stadium, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. I am extremely excited for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and their fan base to get to the postseason.
Yeah, I got a comment on that bowl too. They're only going to have to bring 2 colors of paint to paint the end zones because black and gold are colors of both of those teams. And so it's going to be, hopefully they got uniforms that don't clash or match up too closely so we can tell who's who.
Easy to paint the field. I like it. Larry, what you got?
I got 2 of them, gentlemen. Of course, I'm going to always be tuned in to my Miami Hurricanes and the Pinstripe Bowl, even if it is against Rutgers. We'll definitely be tuned into that one. But a game that I'm very interested in seeing is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl with Iowa and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, the reason I'm looking into that is twofold. Number one, Georgia's got a killer schedule next year. And I'm talking about an absolutely – look, they had a cupcake this year. They are going to have a murderer's row schedule next year. And
Yep.
the SEC East, Georgia has not had any real competition probably in the last three, you probably say even the last 4 years on the SEC East side of the schedule. I want to see if Josh Heupel is going to have this Tennessee team ready to play, and I want to see what they come out with to see if going into it, because the problem that we run into, and Dave talked about it at the beginning of the show, is you've got everybody jumping in the transfer portal. And so it's so difficult to figure out what team you're really going to see no matter what bowl game it is. But I'm intrigued to see if Tennessee is going to put a product out that is going to be able to give Georgia any run for its money going into the 2024 campaign.
TC, your most intriguing bowl game outside of the big boys?
It's a great bowl game every year. It sits right here in Atlanta. It's a Peach Bowl. Ole Miss versus Penn State. Ole Miss with a fantastic offense against a very, very good Penn State defense. We'll see again all these bowl games now, except for the playoff games. You're going to have guys sitting out because of the NFL, and they don't want to get hurt. I would love to see each team at full strength, because every Peach Bowl game that's being played is really a good one. They've been close. Michigan State, Pitt, Florida, Michigan. They seem to always come down to the last minute. And, it's not New Year's Eve, thank God, because the traffic will be horrendous. It's on the 30th, which is much better. But to me, that's just a contrast of teams and styles, and it'll be a really good game, and it'll be a sold-out game. Penn State travels well, and so does Ole Miss.
Yeah, it should be an interesting bowl game, and you forgot to mention one of the best Peach Bowls in my lifetime happened last year as Ohio State missed it wide left as the clock struck midnight. Folks, if you like the content.
I left that for you because I knew the Homer comment was coming. I was just counting on my watch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But last year the Peach Bowl was part of the playoffs. So this year.
Yeah, absolutely hilarious there. I love it. Guys, if you like the content, ladies too, if you like the content, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a subscribe. You can find us everywhere at ATL Prime Sports, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and of course on X as well, Instagram and Facebook. All right, guys, let's move there from college football to the NFL. Let's get a quick NFL segment in before our exciting pick six. The Falcons moved to 6-6 with a 13-8 boring road win over the New York Jets. Let's talk some Dirty Birds. Guys, how good is this defense? Larry, I want to hear from you first, man. This is honestly probably the most elite Falcons defense in my lifetime. This one right here. Larry, your thoughts. How good is this Falcons defense?
It's the best one I've seen since the John Abraham days by far. And to see how they have ratcheted up their intensity since the Grady Jarrett injury, really, it does my heart well. To be able to don the black and the red, and just to say our defense does not suck. That just to be able to say that is prideful as a Falcons fan. But all jokes aside, man, listen, you got to look at the likes of what Bud Dupree is doing, what David Onyemata has been able to do. Give it to the big guy, Calais Campbell, who's been able to handle things up the middle. And look, I'm going to give a shout out to somebody I've been very critical of all season long, and that is Arnold Ebiketie. And he has been coming through in the last games here with this almost winning streak. He has been playing lights out football. And if you can continue to get all of those people to continue to put the pressure on, listen, defense wins championships. I don't want this Falcons team to be the next coming of the Brad Johnson Tampa Bay Bucks that won the Super Bowl back in the day. But at the same time, the best way to help out a young quarterback is with an outstanding defense. So give those guys pressure. Jesse Bates has been the man in the defensive secondary. He was worth all the money we paid him. He was worth it all. But no, the Falcons defense has really been coming through in the clutch here in these last few games. They've kept the team in it. Now if we can just get Arthur Smith to hire a play caller that can develop an offense that's worth watching instead of putting you to sleep on the offensive side of football. And I'm going to leave it at that. TC, what you got, bro?
You know, Larry, you did the front, but I've got to go to the secondary led by Bates. I mean, man, he's just been spectacular this year. But it's really kind of hard to tell how good this defense is because you look at the schedule. They've only played 3 teams with winning records, Detroit, Houston, and Jacksonville. Everyone else is 500 below. They play in the worst division in the NFL by far. It's not close. This is a bottom 10 team in the NFL in talent. They're 7th worst in points scored. They're 6th best in the least points, but they haven't played anybody worth a diddly poo all season with a great offense. They just have not. If they play Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Miami, they get lit up, and they get lit up and blown out. Because the defense will be on the field too long because the offense can't really do anything. You look at their schedule down the stretch, Tampa Bay, Carolina, they're home against Tampa and Carolina. They play Indy, the only winning team they play the rest of the way, and Chicago and New Orleans. I mean, the fact they're in 6-6 and in first place tells you all you need to know. It's still fool's gold. I still think New Orleans will pull out this division. When Carr's in the game, they're a much better team. When Winston's in the game, they're a turnover waiting to happen. Do the Falcons win this week? Stay tuned for the pick six, but don't hold your breath.
Oh, talking about this defense, yeah, I do think it's the best Falcons defense I've seen in my lifetime. I'll tell you why. This is the one defense I can say, hey, you know what? Go out and get the stop. And they could absolutely go out and get the stop. Atlanta's a top 10 passing defense, folks, holding opponents to under 7. That's right, under 7 yards per pass attempt. That's 9th in the NFL. Atlanta's forced 5 turnovers alone in the last 2 weeks. And, folks, this is without Pro Bowler, defensive tackle, Grady Jarrett. So they can only get better moving into next year and looking forward that way. Atlanta's also a top 10 I think in terms of yards per play overall, and it's just fun to watch this team get after it. They're getting after the quarterback a little bit better. I think they're projected right around that, close to that 40 number, about 36, 37 that we talked with Will McFadden earlier in the season, Larry. So we finally got a little bit of pass rush to where it's making some quarterbacks uncomfortable. And Todd, the Falcons have had one more winning team that they added onto their record, and that's the Green Bay Packers after getting 6-6. So we'll see what happens, Todd. You're extremely right. You're 100% right about. Hold on, Todd. I'm not done yet. I'm not done talking yet. So you're 100% right.
Green Bay's 5. Green Bay's
no,
500.
Green Bay's 6-6, Todd.
I just said they're 500. That's not a winning record.
They're 6-6, Todd. Green Bay's 6-6.
And it was. And guess what? When they played Green Bay was awful offensively. Right now, Green Bay
I'm
plays
just
the
saying,
Falcons.
Todd.
They would light them up.
Statistics. There's no debate about it.
On Sunday.
I'm not debating you, Todd. They're 6-6. They just added another winning record. Another team with a winning record onto that resume. That's all I said. I'm not disagreeing with the schedule as you cut me off and jump down my throat. It's one of the easiest, if not the easiest, in about 4 or 5 years that I can remember in terms of win-lossing percentage record. So how good is this Falcons defense? I can't tell you because it's good enough for the schedule they got, but we'll see what they do next year because if they do win this division, unfortunately next year they will get a first-place schedule, and that will entail what this Falcons defense will look like in the future. But it is something to hang your hat on as a Falcons fan, that this defense can go out there and get a stop that you need when you need it. And hopefully next year the Falcons can address their offensive woes or get a play caller, as you mentioned, Larry. It's going to be fun down the stretch. Falcons will play the Saints at the end of the season, and that might be for all the marbles in the NFC South. Guys, that wraps up our NFL Quick Hit segment. Let's get Wayne a real quick comment on the Falcons real quick, and we'll move on to the pick six.
Yeah, I'd just like to see more edge rush from Falcons defense. Quit letting that guy throw the ball for the other team so much.
I hear you. Well, let's move on to the pick six, folks. The most fun portion of the show. It's time. Atlanta Prime Sports Pick Six. We pick 6 football games. Lines and spreads are from Monday per Caesars Sportsbook. And this week, it's America's game, baby, at number 1. The final college football regular season game of the year. Army 5-6 versus Navy 5-6. Army is a 2-point favorite. The over-under on that one is 27.5. It's Saturday, 3 p.m. on CBS. The 124th edition of the Army-Navy game at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Wayne, I'll let you tee this one off. What say you, buddy?
Man, I grew up on Navy bases because my dad was in the Navy, and we always lived on base housing. So I have to go for Navy on this one just for that alone.
Got to. Larry, what you got?
As much as I really want to say Navy, I just can't do it. I just cannot do it, man. I've watched this game every year. This is one that I will not miss, just because it's just something extra. And everybody asks about the biggest rivalry in sports. This is it. You can say whatever you want to. This is it. I could give you a whole bunch of stats and everything else, but for me, I'm going with Army. I think they're going to win by a field goal. So I'm picking Army in this football game.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pick for me. Army is looking to win the Commander-in-Chief trophy from Air Force with the win over Army. With the win over Navy. So Army can hold and hoist the CIC trophy with the win. And I think Air Force currently holds the Commander-in-Chief trophy. So a win over Navy gets Army the Commander-in-Chief trophy. The underdog has won this game 2 years in a row and 7 of the last 9. Navy has played four quarterbacks throughout the season. You could see 3 of them on Saturday, but I think the difference in the game is going to be Army linebacker Leo Lowen, who's forced 4 fumbles this season. That's one of the best in the country at that category. It's 3rd overall. And I'll go with Army, who has been more consistent at the quarterback position as well. And I like Monken's offense a little bit better. He throws it around just a little bit better than Navy. So I'm going with Army to cover as well. And looks like we've lost TC. We'll get his picks up there on the YouTube version.
I'm here.
Oh, there he goes. I didn't know if we got you back in. Army or Navy, Todd? It's a 2-point favorite for Army.
I've got Army. Jeff Monken has done a great job turning this team around. They were 2-6. They've won 3 in a row. They defeated number 25 Air Force at the time. And hey, my son's in the military. He's in the Army. We're an Army family. And I think Army will win this game. But it'll be a darn close one. I think it's the best college football game of the year, bar none. It's the best atmosphere. I don't care if it's the SEC title game, national championship game, semifinal, Big Ten, Rose Bowl. This, to me, is quote-unquote the granddaddy of them all.
I love it. So, Larry, just to make sure I got it right, you have Army covering. Wayne's going Navy in the points. I'm going Army, and Todd's going Army as well. The rest of them, guys, are NFL games. Let's get to Sunday. Buccaneers 5-7 travel to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, take on the first place 6-6 Falcons. Atlanta's 2.5-point favorites. The over-under in that game is 39. Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. on CBS. I'll tee this one off, guys. Look, Baker Mayfield comes into this game with a streak that you don't really want to have. He's thrown an interception in 4 consecutive games. The Falcons' defense hasn't allowed a touchdown the last 2 weeks. Bunch of field goals to the Saints. Gave up a safety, 2 field goals to the Jets. So the defense is playing extremely well, again, versus weaker opponents. But this is the NFL, and you play the games in front of you. Falcons must score points this week, though. Only 13 last week. And the Falcons got to do better on third down. They were 4 for 14 last week in New York. I think they improve every statistical category. Coming home, I like the Falcons to cover and advance their lead in the division. Falcons cover the Bucks. Larry, what say you?
Yeah, I'm with you, JJ. I hate to be with you because I need to catch you, and I can't when we're picking the same things. But, no, you're absolutely right. I think the difference here is had not Desmond Ridder turned the ball over 2 times in the red zone the first time they played Tampa, then you would have seen a bigger victory the first time that they played them. I was so just elated to see that he was able to go a game without a turnover in those awful conditions in New York. He'll be at home. He plays well at home. Atlanta's a better team than Tampa. I just feel like there's going to be a steady diet of Bijan and Tyler Algier. I'm just hoping that Drake London and Kyle Pitts can have a breakout game. Somebody, please, give me a play caller that can get them guys one-on-one and in space in matchups where they are put in an advantage situation. That would just that would just make me the happiest Falcons fan ever. But long story short, Falcons win and they do cover.
All right, TC, what you got for us? I think you said Falcons earlier.
Just when you expect the Falcons to win, what do? They generally lose. The Bucks and the Falcons are twins. The Falcons have scored only 3 more points than Tampa all year. And Tampa scored 7 more points than Atlanta, and they've given up 5 more with basically the same schedule. It's hard to beat a team twice in a season. The line has moved down to 1.5. Folks are betting on the Bucks. I'll take them too. Don't take fool's gold at home.
Wayne, why are you taking the Falcons?
Well, I'm taking the Falcons because I want them to be able to continue their undefeated season. Now, I know the scores that you've been seeing on these Falcons games might make you think they've lost those games, but that's a conspiracy theory, and I think it's part of the deep state, it's a psyop. Right now, Atlanta's undefeated. That's all I'm saying.
Wayne, can I say something? What the hell are you? The playoff college football playoff committee? You can't see what's going on in the field?
Yeah, I don't have to see what's going on in the field. I know what the people want.
Yeah, the Falcons are undefeated in the division. All right, guys. Our third pick 6 game, our second NFL game, puts the Lions at 9-3. Traveling to Soldier Field to take on the Bears at 4-8. Detroit's a 3-point road favorite. Over-under in this one is 40. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the over-under in the Bucks-Falcons game is 39.5. Again, over-under in the Lions-Bears game is 40 and a hook. Detroit's 3-point favorites. 1 o'clock p.m. on Fox. Wayne, what say you? Lions or Bears?
Detroit over Chicago any day. I like the Lions on this one. I like them a lot.
Lions cover for Wayne. TC, are your Lions covering?
Now, there's no question about it. Jared Goff was a turnover machine against Chicago. And of course, the game that they lost against Green Bay, they escaped one of them. They couldn't escape the second one. Detroit's a better road team than they are at home this season. They're 5-1. They're also 5-1 against ATL. I like the Lions, and I like them big. I don't think Goff will turn it over. Detroit, even though they play in a dome, they're meant for cold weather because they can really run that football. They have a dynamic offense. I will say this, the Bears have gotten better, but they struggled against a Minnesota team, as you know, that doesn't have Kirk Cousins. And they'll struggle against Detroit. I think the Lions win this game by 10 plus.
Larry, you got the Lions or you got the Bears?
Yeah, right. I wish I would pick Chicago. No, Detroit's going to win this game, and it's not even going to be close. I really don't think. And the only reason I say that, the one element Detroit will have to utilize to beat this team is the passing game. Chicago is one of the best teams in the league against the run, so they're going to make life probably difficult for both Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. So it's going to take the likes of Amon-Ra St. Brown and getting Montgomery and Gibbs the ball out of the backfield in space, and Jared Goff is going to have to beat them with his arm. But I think they are defensively. I don't think Justin Fields can handle what the Detroit defense is going to bring. So I'm with everybody else there. Give me Detroit, and it's not even going to be close.
Yeah, I got the Lions covering as well. The Bears coming to this game having 1, 2, and 3, but Goff and the Lions are playing better than Chicago right now. Very balanced attack for Detroit. They're fourth in the NFL in passing and rushing, passing over 263 yards a game, rushing over 137. Fields has turned the ball over 10 times this season. He's been sacked 29. Give me the Lions on the road. Game 4, Colts 7-5, a surprising 7-5 for these Indianapolis Colts, by the way. And the Bengals 6-6, surprising with Jake Browning getting his first win last week. So real intriguing storyline. The closest spread of the day. Indianapolis comes in at a 0.5 point favorite. Might as well just be a pick 'em, but Vegas doesn't do that to you. Over under 42.5, 1 o'clock p.m. on CBS. The Colts can score with the best of them in the NFL, 25 points per game. That's 8th in the league. Bengals are coming off their quarterback's first win as an NFL starter. Browning threw for over 350 yards in that game on 32 of 37. As well as a touchdown pass in that game. Jamar Chase is having a great season, already over 1,000 yards, despite not having Burrow in most of the season now. To me, this is one of those games. Look, I think Jake Browning figured something out last week, and give me the 0.5 point, even though it doesn't make a difference. But yeah. Give me the 0.5 point. The Bengals at home. I think Gardner Minshew is going to throw a late interception. It's going to be costly. Bengals will take advantage. Give me the Bengals and the measly 0.5 point at home. Larry, what say you?
This game is going to be a track meet. Two of the worst defenses in the league. I saw something from Jake against the Jacksonville Jaguars that tells me he's got that it factor, that he is going to grind, he's going to battle. You know, the only reason I'm going to pick Cincinnati is because they're playing at home. I can't go against my boy. We share the same name. His name is Gardner. My last name is Gardner. I love the guy. I love his tenacity. I love his grit. But if they were playing in Indianapolis, I would take them. But no, the only reason I'm going here is Cincinnati's at home. Jamar Chase is a weapon. T. Higgins is a weapon, and they play very well in the jungle. Give me Cincinnati to win this game.
TC, you what say you? Let's we're quickly approaching the end of time here. What you got? The Bengals or the Colts?
Oh, Cincinnati. Jake Browning did a fantastic job. We've mentioned it on Monday Night Football against the Jags. I'm taking the Bengals. Going on the road in this league is pretty tough, and you're giving me a 0.5 point in Cincinnati. I'll take it. I think they'll win by at least 1.
Wayne,
they
what you got?
Win by at least by 1. So yeah, I'll take the Bengals.
It's basically a pick 'em. Wayne, what you got?
I'm taking the Bengals as well. I like them better than the Colts, so that's why I'm picking them.
I like it. Bengals and the measly 0.5 point. I was really hoping that would get up to a point by the time we posted this bad boy. Our 5th game of the Pick 6 puts the Bills at 6-6, traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the 8-4 Chiefs. Coming off a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Kansas City's a 2.5 point favorite. The over-under in this one is 47.5. 4:25 p.m. on CBS. Two top 5 defenses in the NFL meeting in this matchup. Chiefs 3rd at 17 points per game. Bills at 5th at just over 18 points a game. Bills have been slumping of late. I think they need a big win, and I think they get the momentum type of win. And most likely with Taylor Swift in the stands, sending her home unhappy. Give me the Bills. Give me Josh Allen. I think Von Miller gets after Patrick Mahomes late in the game, has a strip sack, goes back to his Denver days. I like the upset here. Bills get back on track. I think Diggs has a big game in front of Taylor Swift. They're pumped up too. The Swifties unite for Kansas City, but the Bills get the job done. Give me the Bills and the points here. TC, what you got?
The Bills are one of the most underachieving teams in the NFL. They are 6-6, but they have their points for and points again is +101. Don't never bet against Mahomes at home. He'll find a way. They'll win it. Kansas City has to win it to keep up with the Joneses. That would be Miami and Baltimore for home field. Buffalo, yes, they always find a way to blow a big game. And this one's another big one. I'll take Kansas City at home. Don't bet against Mahomes.
Larry, what you got?
Daylight come on, me got Patrick Mahomes. I'm telling y'all, they don't lose when Taylor's in the building at home at Arrowhead. Patrick, I'm telling you, he's getting into the what we call the fourth quarter of the season. I think the key to this game is going to be the running game of the Chiefs, because if you can get the running game going where you can get 3 or 4 yards a pop, then you can set up the play action game. The problem with Kansas City's offense to me is they're so missing the deep threat. One of the elements that made Patrick Mahomes who he was is having the deep ball threat. He's having the mid-range game people to death, but they're playing at home. I like what they're doing. I like the way that Kansas City is playing at this point, as opposed to the way Buffalo has been playing up to this point. Josh Allen has been turnover. He's been turnover prone here lately, like he got bit by the Desmond Ritter bug. Give me the Chiefs at home to take care of business.
Wayne, what you got?
Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and go with the Chiefs on this one too. This year the Bills, it does not look like they don't look like they did the last 2 years, and I just feel like the Chiefs have more confidence going into this game, and they'd like to bounce back from last week.
Yeah, the only reason I'm going with the Bills is because I don't like the way the Chiefs are playing on offense right now. And I was, if we had a little bit more time, talking about underachieving teams, and that was going to be probably all of our teams, is the Bills. Very heavy expectations at the beginning of the season. Nobody thought they'd have the same exact record as the Atlanta Falcons.
I did say Chiefs, didn't I?
Yeah, you said Chiefs. You said Chiefs. I'm the only one.
You started hyping the Bills, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm the only one that took the Bills. I think they need a big win. I think firing the offensive coordinator a couple weeks ago, maybe they finally start to get comfortable in that offense again and get going like we all know they can. Final game of the night, Sunday Night Football, 8:20 p.m. on NBC. It's the Eagles. It's the Cowboys. Eagles 10-2 travel to Jerry World and take on the 9-3 Cowboys. Battle for first place in the NFC East. Cowboys 3.5-point favorites at home. Over under in this one's 52. I'll tee this one off yet again. Sunday Night Football, yet again. I already mentioned it. Excuse me. Dallas is great at home this year. Unbeaten. 6-0 at home. Also, Dallas has the best offense in the league and the top 5 defensive unit. Dallas gives the Eagles their second consecutive loss by a touchdown. Swift is questionable. They figure out a way to keep Philadelphia out of 3rd and 4th and short, because then it's just a first down automatically with the tush push or the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. They have to stay out of 3rd and shorts because that is a unstoppable play right now. But I think Dallas does that. I think they have a defensive pick six, or Micah Parsons does a strip sack, and they score a touchdown on defense. And Dak has a big Sunday Night Football game at home and goes to 7-0. Give me the Cowboys to cover at home. Wayne, what say you?
I'm taking the Cowboys to cover as well. Normally, I wouldn't pick the Cowboys, but they're getting some steam behind them, and of course, both these teams have some former University of Memphis players, so I could go either way, but I'm going to get Dallas this time.
TC, what you got?
Well, this is a fantastic rivalry, and the Cowboys, they haven't won a quote-unquote big game in a long time. That half point there is really big. This should be a high-scoring game. Dallas is, scored over 30 points every home game this season. The problem is they give up a ton, too. Philadelphia's a little bit banged up on that offensive line, but, Dak in big games just hasn't been able to get it done. He ran out of bounds in Philadelphia. If he didn't, he stayed in bounds. Dallas won the game.
Let him get back in. TC, still with us?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so Dallas.
Gotcha.
No, Dallas just hasn't won a big game in a while, and if Dak doesn't run out of bounds, stays in bounds, they win that game. I'm going to go against my brain and with my gut and say Dallas finally wins.
All right, Larry, go ahead right quick, buddy.
But do they win by more than 3.5? Golly, I guess I'll say yes. Cowboys, barely.
Cowboys cover for
TC
as
going
well.
with the Cowboys.
What you got, Larry?
Y'all jokers going with the Cowboys. Forget them Dak-blamed Cowboys. I'm telling y'all, after getting smacked in the face and mollywopped last week against the doggone 49ers, give me the Eagles to cover this thing outright, get back. I'm telling y'all that y'all missing out on one big factor, the addition of Shaq Leonard to this Eagles defense. He is going to help make life miserable for Dak Prescott. I'll end it real quick. Give me the Eagles. I hate them, but we're going to go with them. Eagles to cover, baby.
You know what? I'm going with you. I'm going to go with you, Larry. Common sense just kicked in. Give me Philadelphia. That half point is screaming at me. I'll take the Eagles.
Eagles in the points for Larry and TC. Wayne and I are going with the home team. Guys, we got a quick final thought real quick. I just want to say enjoy the Army-Navy game and check out the Braves Twitter. They've been making some off-season moves. And where does Shohei Ohtani sign? That has been the question of the offseason in Major League Baseball. Real quick, guys. Wayne, what's your final thought?
Well, my final thought is there's 28 seconds left in this Memphis game, and they're down by 1. And I'm trying to watch the show and watch the score.
Larry, what you got, man?
Quick basketball point, fellas. I know that we don't talk a lot of Hawks basketball here, but it's amazing how much of an impact Jalen Johnson has had on this team. Because since his injury, they have not been the same Hawks team that was able to put up 130, 140, and 150 points a game. They have been a shell of themselves to the absence of Jalen Johnson. Trey, he needs some help. And DeJounte is not the guy that's going to be able to do it. He needs Jalen Johnson to get back to see if this Hawks team is going to be able to do what they need to do, fellas.
Yeah, we'll talk some Hawks for you next week, Larry. They're in one game under 500, and they're struggling with Brooklyn right now. Excuse me. TC, your final thought for the night, man, I'll sign us off.
Yes, tomorrow morning live at 10 a.m. on X Spaces, we'll have another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Of course, you guys are always welcome to join me. We'll have Danny Bennett on, the Lions editor, Lions on Tap. We'll talk the NFL and the Detroit Lions. We'll also talk a little bit of Atlanta Falcons. We also had TJ Pittenger on today. Go ahead and check out that podcast. We had well over 300 listeners, and we're probably going to have over 400 before it's said and done. We're getting good numbers for the most part on the spaces. Listen in. We'll take your questions at the end of the interview if you are a listener like we did today.
Guys, if you like the content, please subscribe. For Wayne in Memphis, for Larry in Adairsville, for Todd in Woodstock, I'm JJ in Lilburn. Thanks for listening to ATL Prime Sports. We'll see you next week. Go Falcons. Get you one.